Good morning, class. This is Mr. Walker here, coming to you with our notes for writing exponential equations. You got this paper from me last week, but there will be extra copies in class in case you need it. So, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, so right here is the actual equation for what an exponential will look like. We got y equals a times b to the x power. These things are all subject to change, but things to note is that this x here, this is where our x will be. It'll be in the power in some, form. Like it'll be x or x plus 1, 3x, things like that. All right, we got some quick labels that we got to go through to make. So first off, let's deal with this label over here for A, okay? So A right here in front, this is what we know as the y-intercept, okay? Let me go through, I'll blow this up here. So whatever A is in your equation, that's going to be what the y-intercept is. Now over here, B is something that helps us go through and find different points inside of our equation. B is, sorry, let me go through and type. Nope, I gotta go and make a new one. Boom, there you go. B is what we call the multiplier. Okay, so as we go through and either make up a chart or if we're interpreting our equations from a chart, this number is going to be what each of our outputs or our y's are being multiplied by. So let's go through, let's get a quick little example so you could start interpreting things. Okay. All right. Down here, we got a chart here. We're going to interpret a couple things from this chart. So first off, let's go through and interpret our y-intercept or our initial value. So our y-intercept here, eh, you guys are just not going to work with me here. You got to love technology, guys. All right, so our y-intercept is when x equals 0. And when that's the case, what is our y value? All right, so let's actually go through and take a look at that in our chart. So we're looking for x equaling 0 here, okay? So x equals 0 right here. Our y value is 3. So 3 is our y value when x is 0. Now, as we go through and start to build up parts of our equation, we want to go starting first off with that. So we got our original form is a times b to the x power. A is our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is 3. So A, that's going to be 3 for us. Now we got to figure out what B is. Now this is all being taken to some x power. We're not going to mess with that right now. But for us to find out what our multiplier is, our multiplier, come on, let's see if this will work this time. There we go, yes. So our multiplier is, what is y multiplied by each time x goes up by 1. So what is y multiplied each time x goes up, folks? Let's take a look at all of our outputs. All right, now we're going from -1 up to +2. Let's look at what changes. So first y value we got is 1, then we're going over to 3. What did we multiply by to get from 1 to 3? We multiplied by 3. And now going from 3 to 9, that's another 3 again. And then from 9 to 27, we're multiplying by 3 one more time. So what do we multiply each time? By 3, which means our b value here is equal to 3. So that makes our equation 3 times 3 to the x power. And this would be our equation. Now, Before you even go further, you also want to make sure that you check your equation. So let's go through. Let's give it a quick check, people. Boom, boom, boom. All right, here's our handy dandy calculator. Let's go through. Let's get this. If this works, then we should be able to get the same things for each of these. So we got 3 times 3. Let's do to the negative first power. Gives us 1. So that works out. Let's try our next one. Next one that we got is 0. So let's go through. Let's put 0. That works out too. And let's check 1. Yep. And all of these are pretty, they've been working out pretty well. But let's just check out 2 just to make sure. 27. You could also pop this equation here into the y equals menu to see if your chart matches up with there. And that's about it. So let's do a couple of these to get you used to, the process. We're going to do the first, we're going to do the first 3. Okay. So let's go through. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. All right. First off, we're looking for the y-intercept. Y-intercept is when x equals 0. So here's our 0, which means that our y-intercept is 5, not 5, negative 5. So we got for y-intercept, we got negative 5, which is our a. Okay. Now we got to look for what we're multiplying by. Now, when we go through and look at this, we got to be clear as to what's happening in our arithmetic. We are multiplying by some number to get each of these y's. So first, let's look at negative 25 to negative 5. What could we multiply by to get from here to here? From here to here, even though we're going lower, you might be thinking, oh, we're dividing. Now, that is true. Division, though, can also be written as multiplication. Well, we are multiplying here. If we are doing this as a division problem, would be 5. Another way we can go through and write this is as 1 over 5. So if we multiply by 1 over 5, we go from 25 to negative 5. If we do that one more time, negative 5 to negative 1, that's also 1 over 5. If we divide negative 1 by 1, sorry, no, if we multiply negative 1 by 1 over 5, same thing will happen again. So our multiplier here is 1 over 5, which is going to be our b. So our final equation here from this interpreting of our table is negative 5 times 1 over 5 to the x power. And that's it. Nice and easy and simple, folks. All right, let's take a look at our next one. All right, next one we got here. We got to go through and do a little bit of math because you notice here, our chart does not have 0 involved. So let's go through and figure out what would it be so we can find out our y-intercept and then find our multiplier. All right, probably the best thing to do is figure out what our multiplier is so that when we go down from 1 to 0, we can find out what this y-intercept will be. So first off, let's go through, let's figure out what we're dividing by or multiplying by. First one that we got here is 72. And the next number we got is 12. Since 72 is going down to 12, I'm assuming we're dividing or multiplying by some fraction. So I know 72 divided by 12 gives us 6. This 6 here is going to be what we're multiplying by. So we need to write 6 as a fraction for us. That's going to be 1 over 6. So if we do 72 times 1 over 6, we get 12. Let's check that math again for our next one. So if we do 70, not 72, 12 this time, by 1 over 6, we get 2. And then if we do 2 times 1 over 6, we get 0.3 repeating, if you wanted to check the fraction version, that is 1/3. So each of these are being multiplied by 1/6, which makes our multiplier here 1/6. Let's go through, let's write that real quick. All right, 1/6 equals B. All right, next we got to figure out what A is, okay? So if going down is what's happening over here, going up from 1 to +4, going in the reverse means that we're going to have to take 72 here and multiply it by 6 to get our answer for when x is 0. So let's go through and do that. 72 times 6 gets us 432. Let's just double check that by going in the reverse. 432. Oops, sorry about that. Divided by, well, not divided by, times 1 divided by 6. All right, that worked out. So when our x value is 0, our y value is going to be 432. All right, this means that our equation here is y equals our y-intercept, which is 432, and then our multiplier, which is 1/6, to the x power. And that's it for us. All right, first two was easy, okay? Now I'm gonna leave another, couple chart ones for you, but let's talk about this one over here. Now, this one here, you might be wondering, how am I gonna actually go through and deal with this? For this, let's just get our best possible guesses here, okay? Let's not freak out too much. Let's not, go too hard in the paint. It's not that deep as you may think it is, okay? So let's go through. Let's pick a couple of points. There's something right here. We got something here, something right here. All right. Now we're going to go through and do a little bit of guesstimation here, okay? I think that this point here is somewhere between 0 and 5. I'm going to call this here, this is 2. That's what I think, okay? I'm not about to go through and make you feel like there's an exact answer for this. This is just us eyeballing it and figuring out what we might have. Now over here, I'll say that this x value here, this is about -1, I think. And then over here, this is -2. Let's just, say that that might be what it is. So if you had to go through and guess, we got 2 for our x value, not x value, 2 for our y-intercept. That's what I meant to say. Then we got right here, this is -1 and 5, -2 and 10. Now, since we're going down in our x values, we go from 10 to 5 to 2. We want to go and figure out what we are dividing by. So let's go through and do that. All right. We got 10, 5, 2. All right. 10 divided by 5. Not 5. 10 divided by 2 gets us 5. I'd assume same type of deal might be happening here. So dividing by 2. If we're dividing by 2, that means we just got to, clean it up a little bit. 5 divided by 2, 2.5. All right, so let's just call this 2.5. Let's call this 2.5. So what we are multiplying by, since we are going down, is 1/2. So 1/2 is our multiplier. And our final equation is y equals 2.5. And we got 1/2 to the x. Now, if you wanted to go through and check that, you can. I'm not really too focused on this particular type of thing, okay? If you do see something like this, guesstimating is the best, possibility for you, okay? You can also go through, if you got a multiple choice type of a question that gets you something like this, go through, use your calculator, figure out which one gets you close to the graph as possible. But as for these ones, I'm going to give you a couple practice problems after this so that you can go through and try to tell me what each of these things are. All right, folks, I'm going to catch you later.